They say that blood is thicker than water. From the moment we are born, we are taught a singular universal truth that family is everything. It is supposed to be our safety net, our foundation, and the one bond that is unbreakable. But what happens when that bond becomes the very thing that breaks you? Right now, there is a silent epidemic happening in millions of households. Adult children are making the agonizing decision to cut ties with their parents. To the outside world, it looks like a sudden act of rebellion, a child being ungrateful, a parent being abandoned. But if you look closer behind the silence, there is rarely a simple story of anger. Instead, there is a profound, complex psychology of survival. You did not wake up one morning and decide to destroy your family. You did not choose this out of malice. In fact, you probably spent years trying to fix it. You became the mediator, the therapist, the emotional sponge absorbing every drop of dysfunction, hoping that if you just tried hard enough, they would finally see you. But they didn't, and now you are carrying a heavy secret, the guilt of walking away conflicting with the relief of finally being safe. You are not cold-hearted. You are emotionally exhausted. And today we are going to decode why your brain finally decided that the only way to survive was to leave. Estrangement almost never begins with a dramatic explosion. It begins with erosion. Slow, quiet, almost invisible to everyone except the person living through it. For years, even decades, the relationship looks normal from the outside. Birthdays are celebrated, and smiles appear in photos. But beneath the surface, something is wearing down layer by layer. Psychologists call this microtrauma. It is not always one catastrophic event like a physical blow. It is hundreds of small ones that accumulate like sediment at the bottom of a river. The subtle criticism disguised as concern. The boundary that gets pushed just a little further each year. The dismissive tone that tells you your feelings don't matter. Individually, these moments seem minor, but together, they create a psychological climate that your body detects long before your conscious mind does. You tense up before the phone rings. You rehearse conversations in the shower days before a family gathering. You shrink parts of yourself just to keep the peace. This is the erosion most people never see. This leads to what experts call the volcano effect. To the parent or the outside world, your departure looks sudden. They say it came out of nowhere, but that is the illusion. A volcanic eruption looks sudden only to those who weren't paying attention to the pressure building beneath the surface. Lava doesn't appear overnight. It forms quietly, silently, over years. The mountain holds it in until it simply cannot anymore. The final argument you had over a holiday dinner was never the true cause. It was simply the moment your internal pressure became unbearable. It was the final trigger in a long chain of ignored boundaries and invalidated emotions. Your nervous system reached a state of maximum capacity known as allostatic overload. You didn't leave because you were angry. You left because you were depleted. This depletion comes from a cycle I call the empty well. For most of your life, you have been the one carrying the bucket. You keep going back to your family hoping just once to draw water. Maybe this time they will listen. Maybe this time they will ask how you really are. Maybe this time they will meet you at the level of emotional maturity you have always reached for. But every visit ends the same way. A dry bucket, a hollow chest, a familiar disappointment. You aren't leaving because of what they did. You are leaving because of what they could never give. Returning again and again to an empty well eventually becomes a form of self-abandonment. The pain of what happened can be healed, but the pain of what never happened takes longer because you are grieving a version of childhood you never got to live. This brings us to the most important realization, the twist that changes the entire narrative. Society often labels the estranged child as the weak one, the one who couldn't handle it, the one who ran away. But biologically and psychologically, the opposite is true. You are not the weak link. You are the cycle breaker. In every dysfunctional family system, there is a momentum of trauma that rolls down from one generation to the next, like a heavy stone. Your parents likely inherited their pain from their parents. They learned that love is conditional. They learned that silence is safer than truth. And because they never healed, they passed that stone to you. But you did something extraordinary. You were the first one in the lineage to turn around, face the stone, and say, no, this ends with me. You must understand that leaving a toxic family system is actually an act of supreme biological defiance. Humans are wired for attachment. Our primal brains are terrified of rejection because in the wild, being cast out meant death. So when you choose to walk away, you are fighting against millions of years of evolutionary programming that screams at you to stay and submit. That is not weakness. That is a level of courage that people who have never had to make this choice will never understand. You are not destroying the family. You are acting as the antibody. You are the white blood cell that recognized the infection of dysfunction and decided to quarantine yourself to stop it from spreading. Whether you have children of your own or simply a future you want to protect, you are ensuring that the chaos stops at your doorstep. The guilt you feel is not a moral failing. It is a symptom of your empathy. The fact that you feel guilty proves you are not a narcissist. It proves you care. But you have finally realized that you cannot save people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You are not abandoning them. You are evacuating a burning building after spending years trying to put out the fire with a cup of water. You are saving the only life you actually have the power to save, your own. So, where do you go from here? The first step is to name your grief. Psychologists call this ambiguous loss. It is a unique kind of mourning because the person is still alive, still walking around, and still reachable, but they are emotionally dead to you. There is no funeral to help you move forward, just a lingering question mark where clarity should be. You are grieving not only the relationship you lost, but the relationship you never had, and that is okay. You are allowed to miss them and still know that you cannot be near them. Both truths can exist at the same time. Here is your actionable step for today. It is called dropping the rope. Imagine a tug of war. For years, you have been pulling on one end of the rope, trying to drag your family toward understanding, toward health, toward love, and they have been pulling back just as hard. You are exhausted, your hands are burned, and you are stuck in the mud. Today, just drop the rope. Stop explaining, stop defending, stop waiting for the apology that will never come. Use that energy to build what we call a family of choice. People who do not love you because of obligation or DNA, but because they see you, value you, and choose you. Reclaiming your identity is an act of courage. Creating a family of choice is an act of liberation. Walking away doesn't mean you are heartless. It means you stopped walking back into the fire just because you were told to. You chose peace over chaos. You chose healing over history. And that choice, though painful, is profoundly brave. Remember, you are not a broken branch that fell from the tree. You are a seed that the wind carried away so you could finally find the soil you needed to grow.